This is not a suitable place for single mothers and famished children. The diner proprietor bellowed. She embraced her offspring and departed in silence. No one in the diner voiced any support. No one invited them to remain until a military vehicle halted outside and 2 Marines entered, not to order food. What would cause a denied meal to incite the fury of an entire Marine Corps? Rachel McKinley's hands quivered slightly as she tallied the worn currency in her purse, $23.47. All that was left after settling the heating bill that morning. Outside the small apartment window, snowflakes eddied in the harsh Jacksonville, North Carolina night, Christmas Eve lights glinting off their crystalline facets. "Mom, are we still going out?" Lily inquired, her 7-year-old countenance peering hopefully around the doorframe. Behind her stood Noah, 5 years of age, clutching the small plush bear his father had given him prior to his final deployment. Rachel tucked a tendril of hair behind her ear and managed a smile. At 29, she appeared a decade older, her face imbued with the quiet dignity of someone well-versed in adversity yet resolved not to succumb to it. "Yes, we are going," she affirmed, zipping up Noah's jacket and adjusting Lily's red hat. It is Christmas Eve after all. 3 years had gone by since the military chaplain and notification officer had arrived at her doorstep with tidings that reduced her world to ruin. Sergeant Michael McKinley killed in a transport mishap, leaving behind a young widow and 2 small children. The life insurance had covered funeral costs and a portion of their medical debt, but it depleted rapidly under the burden of daily existence. Now, Rachel worked night shifts at a neighborhood convenience store, attending to customers while her children slept under the vigilant care of Mrs. Abernathy from next door. Every cent was meticulously tracked, every expenditure scrutinized, every indulgence postponed indefinitely. Yet, Christmas Eve called for something exceptional, a small cherished memory for her children to retain through the lengthy winter ahead, a proper dinner at a restaurant, even if only once a year. The Cornerstone Diner was situated on Main Street, its windows clouded with warmth against the frigid night. Rachel had selected it with care. Its menu offered a children's special for $5.99, meaning all 3 could dine for just under $20 with a modest gratuity. The bell above the entrance jingled as they came in. Lily's eyes widened at the sight of the Christmas decorations, while Noah pointed with excitement at the dessert case. Rachel guided them to a booth in the corner, as inconspicuous as possible. A waitress brought water and menus, offering a distracted smile before attending to another table. In the distant corner, 2 young men dressed in casual attire that couldn't entirely conceal their military bearing sat sipping coffee. Rachel ordered the smallest adult meal for herself and children's specials for her youngsters. As the waitress departed, the diner's owner, Mr. Grant, emerged from the kitchen. His gaze swept across the restaurant, pausing when it landed on Rachel's table. His approach was rapid, his expression growing more severe with each step. "Excuse me," he stated, his voice pitched to carry. "Those children had better not create a disturbance." Rachel nodded quickly. "They will not, sir. They understand how to conduct themselves." Mr. Grant's eyes narrowed, taking in her worn coat and the children's mended garments. "Can you actually afford to dine here?" The dining room grew quiet. Nearby patrons shifted uneasily, suddenly engrossed in their meals. "Yes," Rachel whispered. "I have sufficient funds." "This is not a charitable institution," Mr. Grant persisted, his voice escalating. "This is not a place for single mothers and hungry children. We operate a respectable establishment." Noah's lower lip began to tremble. Lily stared at the tablecloth, her cheeks flushed. Rachel rose slowly, her dignity intact despite the humiliation searing her face. "We will depart. I apologize for any inconvenience." One of the young Marines half rose from his seat, but his companion restrained his arm. "Not at this moment, Martinez. Not tonight." As Rachel guided her silent children towards the exit, snowflakes already beginning to gather on the sidewalk outside, not a single voice was raised in their defense. Kind individuals often bear the greatest burden, yet sometimes it is the sole path they comprehend. Can such quiet dignity awaken what is right in the hearts of others? Rachel shut the apartment door behind them, the meager warmth within scarcely dispelling the chill that had penetrated her very being. It was not the December cold that had frozen her, it was the recollection of her children's expressions as they were ushered out of the diner, bewilderment and shame intermingling in their innocent gazes. "I'm not hungry anyway," Lily declared unconvincingly, her small voice attempting bravery. Noah looked up at his mother. "Did we do something wrong?" Rachel knelt to meet his gaze, her hands gentle on his shoulders. "No, sweetheart. Some people just forget how to be kind sometimes." She moved to the kitchenette and opened a cardboard box on the counter. Christmas cookies from the church food pantry, slightly stale but decorated with cheerful red and green frosting. Breaking them into pieces, she arranged them on a plate with ceremonial care. "Look," she said with forced brightness, "Christmas cookies for dinner. That's even better than restaurant food, isn't it?" The children nodded, playing along with her pretense of adventure rather than necessity. As they nibbled their makeshift meal, Rachel's gaze drifted to the cardboard box in the corner. It held their most precious possessions, photo albums and mementos of Michael that wouldn't fit on their apartment's sparse shelves. Atop the stack lay a framed photograph of a smiling Marine in dress blues, his eyes crinkling at the corners just like Noah's did when he laughed. Scrolled across the bottom in Michael's distinctive handwriting, "For those we leave behind." Morning arrived with unforeseen repercussions. Someone at the diner had captured Mr. Grant's outburst on their phone. The video disseminated through local social media networks, comments amassing with each share. "Who does she think she is, dragging children out for sympathy meals?" one commenter posted. "Entitled much? Restaurants aren't daycare centers," added another. Yet others responded differently. "I've been in her situation, only I didn't have two little ones relying on me. Those children were better behaved than most who dine there regularly." In a private Marine Corps veterans group, the video initiated a distinct discussion. A user with the handle DesertDog78 commented, "McKinley, wasn't that the surname of a Marine from the Fallujah deployment?" The inquiry triggered a cascade of messages, service records were consulted, and connections were established. Within hours, Major John H. Reeves, currently stationed at Camp Lejeune just outside Jacksonville, received a text message containing the video link and a name he hadn't encountered in years. "Sir, isn't this Sergeant McKinley's widow? The one who extricated Thompson and Rodriguez from that burning Humvee?" Meanwhile, Mr. Grant responded to the escalating controversy with a curt statement to local news: "My establishment reserves the right to refuse service to any individual. We uphold certain standards." Rachel remained silent throughout the ordeal, oblivious to the digital tempest enveloping her family's Christmas Eve humiliation. When approached by a local reporter, she politely declined to offer any comment. Instead, she escorted her children to the community church service. Afterward, she quietly volunteered to wash dishes for the holiday meal program. As she scrubbed pots in the church kitchen, Lily and Noah played with other children whose families had come for the complimentary Christmas dinner. "Your mom is helping a great deal," the kitchen coordinator remarked to the children. "You must be very proud of her." Lily nodded gravely. "She says when you have experienced hunger, you should assist in feeding others when you are able. Some individuals do not require being seen, they only need to be understood." The day following Christmas, Rachel sat at her small kitchen table, staring at the utility bill. "Final warning before disconnection," the bold lettering proclaimed, detailing the winter surcharge that had plunged her meticulously managed budget into a deficit. She quickly folded the paper and tucked it into her pocket as Lily and Noah emerged from their bedroom. "Is it cold outside today, too?" Noah asked, pulling his blanket around his shoulders. "Just a little," Rachel answered, though the apartment's thermostat had been lowered to 62 degrees to conserve funds. "We'll cuddle under blankets later and read stories. It'll be cozy." Lily looked thoughtfully at her mother. "Mom, would Dad know about what happened at the restaurant? Does he see us from heaven?" Rachel's throat tightened. "I believe he sees the important things," she managed. Across town, the Cornerstone Diner was experiencing its usual post-Christmas lunch surge. Mr. Grant moved between tables, greeting regular patrons and directing his waitstaff with characteristic brusqueness. The video controversy had elicited a few negative online comments, but his loyal customer base seemed largely unaffected until the dark green military vehicle pulled up outside. Conversations ceased as two Marines in crisp service uniforms entered. Unlike the casual, off-duty presence of military personnel common in Jacksonville, these men moved with official intent. They did not occupy a table or approach the counter for takeout. Instead, they stood just inside the entrance, surveying the room. One nodded to the other, who stepped outside briefly before returning with a third man, Major John H. Reeves, his rank insignia glinting in the light. Mr. Grant emerged from the kitchen, wiping his hands on his apron. "May I assist you, gentlemen? Mr. Grant?" Major Reeves inquired, though it was not truly a question. "We would like a word." When they were seated in a corner booth, the Major removed a photograph from an envelope and placed it carefully on the table between them. "Do you recognize this Marine?" he asked. Mr. Grant glanced at the picture of a smiling man in combat gear, his arm around a fellow Marine amidst a dusty landscape. "Should I? Sergeant Michael McKinley. He perished 3 years ago, leaving behind a wife and 2 children." The Major's voice remained level, professional. "The same family you denied service to on Christmas Eve." Color drained from Mr. Grant's face. "I didn't. I had no idea who they were." "Precisely," Major Reeves stated. "You had no idea that Sergeant McKinley rescued 5 Marines during an ambush. You had no idea he received the Bronze Star posthumously. You had no idea that the woman you humiliated has been working 2 jobs to keep her children fed since losing him." The Major leaned forward slightly. "We Marines have experienced hunger too, Mr. Grant, but we have never turned away another hungry individual, especially not the family of one who gave everything." By afternoon, a sign appeared in the diner's window authorized by the local Veterans Association. It read simply, "Refused service to the children of a fallen hero." Business dwindled. Regular customers found alternative coffee spots. Christmas tourists read the sign and moved on. By evening, Mr. Grant stood in an empty restaurant, the financial repercussions of his actions becoming starkly evident. At her apartment, Rachel discovered an envelope that had been slipped under her door. Inside was a handwritten letter on Marine Corps stationery. "Mrs. McKinley, we once owed your husband our lives. Now we know how to repay that debt. Semper Fidelis isn't just a motto, it's a promise to our own. Michael's brothers." Accompanying the letter was a box containing gift cards for groceries, warm winter clothing in the children's sizes, and an educational savings bond for each child. That evening, as Noah tried on his new jacket, dark blue with red stripes exactly as he had desired, he looked up at his mother with serious eyes. "Mom, can I be a Marine someday? Like Dad?" Rachel knelt beside him, straightening the collar of his jacket as tears threatened to spill. "Only if you learn to protect others the way these Marines protected us." Lily joined their huddle, wrapping her arms around her mother's neck. "We don't need that restaurant anyway," she whispered. "We have each other." When justice doesn't emanate from courtrooms, it arrives through the hearts of those who truly comprehend loss. Spring arrived in Jacksonville, dissolving winter's harsh recollections. Rachel's existence had transformed in ways she could never have foreseen that snowy Christmas Eve. The Marines' intervention had not concluded with the gift box. 2 weeks after the incident, Rachel received a telephone call from Camp Lejeune's Family Services office offering her a part-time position as a kitchen assistant supervisor for the new recruits' mess hall. The hours aligned perfectly with her children's school schedule, the remuneration was significantly better than her convenience store employment, and the base provided transportation. "We require someone who comprehends what these young Marines need," the coordinator had elucidated, "someone who understands what it means to serve, even if they never wore the uniform themselves." Rachel continued to reside in the same modest apartment, but it no longer felt like a place of want. Weekends brought invitations to base events and community gatherings. Lily joined a reading club organized by officers' wives, while Noah found himself surrounded by surrogate uncles eager to instruct him in everything from bicycle maintenance to proper saluting techniques. On her small living room wall hung 2 photographs. The first depicted Michael in his dress blues, his smile eternally captured. Beside it, a new picture, Rachel and her children standing amidst a group of Marines at attention, all rendering a solemn salute towards Michael's photo. The simple frame bore an engraved plate, "You didn't just lose him. You inherited all of us." The Cornerstone Diner eventually reopened under new management, a retired Marine gunnery sergeant who had served with Michael. His initial action was to establish a heroes table perpetually reserved for families of fallen service members. His second was to hire Rachel as a weekend manager, transforming her humiliation into a position of authority. Mr. Grant had sold the business after 2 months of community boycott, relocating to another town where his Christmas Eve actions were not widely known. Before departing, he had left an unsigned card containing a substantial gift certificate at Rachel's door, an apology lacking the courage for a direct confrontation. Rachel had donated it to the base's family emergency fund. One evening, as she supervised kitchen cleanup at the base, a young private approached her tentatively. "Mrs. McKinley, I just wanted to say my mom was a single parent, too. What happened to you at that diner?" "It happened to us a lot." He straightened his shoulders. "I used to think the Corps was just about fighting. Now I understand we're also about standing up for people who deserve to be served." Rachel smiled, recognizing in his earnest face the same determination she saw daily in her own reflection. That's exactly what Michael would have said. As she drove home that night, Rachel passed the diner where their Christmas Eve had unraveled. Through the windows, she could see families gathered, including several in military uniform. The hero's table was occupied by a young woman with a toddler, another widow being honored rather than humiliated. Some meals are never served, but we remember them forever for who was turned away and who chose to stand beside them. When I first heard about Rachel's story, it reminded me of my own mother. There were nights when we had nothing but kindness from strangers to hold us over. We never forgot those faces. That's why this story matters. Not because it went viral, but because it proves something simple: the strongest people aren't always the ones in uniform. Sometimes they're the ones just trying to feed their kids.